From Atlanta to D.C., people gathering to say goodbye to our 39th president, Jimmy Carter. People braved the cold, even snow, to pay their respects to the Georgian native today.
Some remembering his 4 years in the White House, others his humanitarian work.
And this morning, President Carter left the grounds of one of his greatest achievements, the Carter Center, for the last time before heading to D.C. for remembrances there. That's where we find Fox 5 anchor Russ Spencer tonight. Russ, a fitting and moving tribute today in our nation's capital.
Courtney and Tom, there is no question about it. A beautiful day here in Washington, D.C. today, and a long day of tributes to the only president of the United States from Georgia. A fresh snowfall created a stunning backdrop to President Carter's final return to Washington, and the observances continue tonight. Let's take a live look inside the Capitol Rotunda, where the peanut farmer from Plains lies in state. You can see people are braving the bitter wind chills to pay their respects. The Rotunda is open to the public until midnight tonight and all day tomorrow. President Carter's body will be taken to the Washington National Cathedral for a funeral service Thursday morning. President Joe Biden will deliver a eulogy there. You know, some 23,000 people made the effort to get to the Carter Center in Atlanta to pay their last respects to Jimmy Carter. Fox 5's Tyler Fingert is here in Washington and found some Georgians tonight who came to the U.S. Capitol.
People from across the country are pouring into the Capitol to pay tribute to former President Jimmy Carter as he lies in state in the Rotunda.
Left or right, guys, they're both the same.
Long lines, below freezing temperatures, and all the snow didn't keep many mourners away from Capitol Hill Tuesday night. Jill Welch from Brookhaven was one of those who braved the elements.
We were worried that we weren't going to get here because of the snow, and we're here, and I'm just so grateful.
Welch joined thousands who turned out for day one of former President Jimmy Carter lying in state at the U.S. Capitol. For her, the chance to see his casket was an important one after spending the last few days volunteering at the Carter Center as he lay in repose there. After seeing the former president in D.C., she now plans to be in Plains as he's laid to rest.
President and Mrs. Carter meant a lot to me, their work, basically, and it's amazing what they've done. They've changed this world.
Patrice Ernest from Smyrna flew to Washington, D.C. alone. While she says she could have driven a few miles to pay her respects at the Carter Center, she says being in our nation's capital is more meaningful.
But to really be able to see the respect, to be able to really see the impact that he had on a national level was something that I wanted to see.
Ernest says her family feels a special connection to the Carters. She showed me a picture of an invitation her in-laws received to attend Carter's inauguration nearly 50 years ago. She's here Tuesday to make sure her family is represented as the nation says goodbye.
I knew that it would mean a lot for me, our family, just to be here.
Well, everyone has a different story for why they're here. The one thing uniting everyone, they want to honor the globetrotting humanitarian.
It's a time to reflect on all the good works that he and Mrs. Carter did.
Thousands of people are expected to pour into the Capitol over the course of the next several days as former President Carter lies in state here until Thursday morning. In Washington, D.C., Tyler Fingert, Fox 5 News.
Tyler, thanks so much. And to give you some perspective on the sacrifice people have made to be here tonight, the wind chill in Washington, D.C. right now is 12 degrees with wind gusts to 30 miles an hour. So they really wanted to come and pay their respects to the former president. A busy day of ceremonies and remembrances started early today in President Carter's honor. He left the Carter Center in Atlanta for the last time this morning. Service members and complete strangers lined up as his casket was carried out. The 282nd Army Band played Amazing Grace as the procession made its way up the walkway through the circle of flags. From there, President Carter's motorcade went to Dobbins Air Reserve Base for a brief ceremony before boarding Special Air Mission 39 and the flight to Washington. There were no speeches, an Army band played, and Governor Brian Kemp, First Lady Marty Kemp, and Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens joined the Carter family there. A few hours later, the plane landed at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland, near D.C. A military honor guard transferred President Carter's body to a hearse as the U.S. Air Force Band performed, along with a 21-gun salute and other honors offered by ceremonial troops. At the Navy Memorial in Washington itself, about a mile from the Capitol building behind me, the president's casket was transferred one last time to a horse-drawn caisson for the final leg of today's journey. The mournful procession, an echo of his walk in the other direction toward the White House after his inauguration way back in 1977. The procession culminated late this afternoon at the Capitol building, where lawmakers from both parties joined the Carter family in celebrating President Carter's extraordinary life. The Carter family stood with hands on their hearts as the former president was carried up the east steps into the Capitol Rotunda for the last time. The first two speakers were Republicans. Both spoke directly to President Carter's children, Jack, Chip, Jeff, and Amy, and both extolled his genuine work with Habitat for Humanity.
Simply lending his name or maybe attending a gala or two wasn't Jimmy Carter's style. He was here to get down in the weeds and the dirt,
and thus began his famous tradition of donating 1 week every year to build and restore homes for his fellow Americans.
Georgia Democrats Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff led a bipartisan group of senators into the rotunda. They stood together, Republicans and Democrats, setting politics aside to honor a life of service. I spoke with Senator Warnock.
An American hero, one of my favorite people, an extraordinary human being who demonstrates as good as anybody I can think of, certainly in the late 20th century, about how to make your faith come alive in public service.
After a day of precise military pomp and circumstance, the service closed with some deeply personal moments as the Carters reached out to touch the casket and say goodbye, not to a president, but to family. Vice President Harris spoke for a grateful nation.
He served the people, and he left the world better than he found it.
The vice president went on to say that Jimmy Carter's life of good work says more about him than our tributes ever could. And amen to that. Tom and Courtney, back to you.
It was just such a beautiful service in so many ways, Russ, but hearing from Reverend Warnock about his life of service and his faith, his commitment to his faith was just so poignant.
As was seeing that bipartisan delegation there in the Capitol Rotunda for that service this afternoon. Russ, thanks. President Carter will remain in D.C. for 2 days, and as Russ just mentioned, he'll lie in state until Thursday morning. There will be a funeral service at the Washington National Cathedral Thursday at 10 a.m. President Carter and his family will then return to Joint Base Andrews and board Special Air Mission 39 at 11:45. Arriving back here in Georgia at about 2 p.m. From there, the motorcade will travel to Maranatha Baptist Church in Plains for a private funeral service at 3:45. And finally, President Carter will be buried next to his beloved Rosalind at their home at 5:30. Fox 5 will have coverage of all of Thursday's events on air and online.